Diverse.
Diverse.
Diverse. Diverse.
Canada is one of the world's largest countries. Not so many people live here, but especially the province Ontario is home to people from diverse backgrounds. Today we will find out about the national government, one of the largest newspapers, one of the country's oldest companies, and a new software company. Americans and Canadians will tell about each other at the most famous border. A country's system of government is a central element. Listen to how the Canadian government rules such a diverse population.
My name is Christine Troutmansdorf, and I work as a Deputy Principal Clerk at the House of Commons. We're in the House of Commons now, and I'm sitting at what's known as the table. This is my place of work here in the House, and I work with a number of colleagues who help to keep track of what's going on in the chamber, record the decisions of the members of Parliament, and also to provide advice to the Speaker and the other chair occupants that direct the debate when the members are here in the House. Canada's system of government is a parliamentary democracy. It's very similar and based on the British system at Westminster. We have two houses, an upper house called the Senate and the lower house, which is here the House of Commons. And the other component of Parliament is the Queen, or the Crown, and the Queen is represented here in Canada by the Governor-General, who is our head of state. The members of Parliament here in the House are elected by the citizens of Canada. There's 301 members of Parliament, and each one represents a constituency or a riding, one area of Canada. They're elected through a political party system usually. We have 5 political parties here in the House right now, and that presents us with a rather diverse group of members of Parliament, a very diverse number of points of view and opinions. The majority party forms the government. Right now we have a liberal government, and there's 156 members of the Liberal government. The official opposition is the Reform Party, and we have 3 other parties also in the House. The government members sit on the Speaker's right, so over on this side of the House, and the opposition sits on the Speaker's left. The official opposition sits usually closest to the Speaker, and then the other opposition parties on towards the back of the chamber. The primary function of the members of Parliament here in the House is to process legislation. The legislation comes to the House in the form of a bill. Most of the bills that are dealt with are introduced by the government, and they represent the measures that need to be put in place in order to implement the government's policies. Each bill comes to the House sponsored by a Minister of the Crown, a member of the Cabinet, and it's debated over a series of reading stages, and then is eventually passed and sent to the Senate, where it is again considered at numerous stages, and finally goes to the Governor-General to receive royal assent, and then becomes a statute or a law and is enacted. There's a number of other activities that go on here in the House. Probably the most visible and the most important in terms of the public's perception is what we call question period. And that's a period of 45 minutes each day when the opposition members have a chance to rise in their places in the House and ask questions, usually of the government cabinet members, questions about what's going on in the country, questions about the government policy, how the government is reacting or responding to certain situations that are coming up. It tends to be very current, very exciting, very much of the time. There's a lot of strongly held opinions and views, and the chamber is always full when question period is on, so we see a lot of that reproduced on the media and the television and the news at night. The House of Commons is a very public place. You can see there's galleries all around the House where people can observe the proceedings of the chamber. We also have television cameras all through the House, and that all the proceedings of the House are broadcast across the country. There's a cable channel that is available in almost all areas of the country, and citizens can watch what's going on in the House at any time. We also have the official record of the House. and the debates, the verbatim transcript of the House called Hansard, which is a recorded every word that is spoken in the House, whether it's in English or in French, which are our two official languages, are translated into the other language, printed, and not only made available to the members here the next morning, but also published on an internet site. And so anyone anywhere in the world can access that internet site and read what the members of Parliament, what the government has said or decided about any particular issue. Help to keep track of what's going on in the chamber, record the decisions.
Keep track of means to keep an eye on something or to be informed about.
And each one represents a constituency or a riding.
The constituency are the people who live in a certain district and vote for the government.
And finally goes to the Governor General to receive royal assent.
Royal assent is an approval that comes from the Queen for things in Canada.
And the debates, the verbatim transcript of the House called Hansard.
Verbatim is the Latin term that means word by word. A country like Canada needs a newspaper to cover a large area and be interesting for many diverse readers. Find out how the Globe and Mail handles this task every day.
My name is Ali Ranama. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at the Globe and Mail, which is Canada's national newspaper. It's one of the oldest newspapers in this country that was established in 1844. And the only newspaper up until about a year ago, the only newspaper in this country that distributed the same day coast to coast. There are now two national newspapers in this country, but the Globe and Mail is still the newspaper of record. It's the newspaper read, if you like, for lack of a better word, by the establishment in Canada, whether it's business, politics, or in the field of education, etc. The circulation of the newspaper is 390,000 on a Saturday and 330,000 on the weekday. And the readership is about 1,100,000 every day. In total, over the course of the week, of 2 million Canadians read or access the Globe. The challenges of publishing a newspaper in a country like Canada are multifaceted. First, this is an extremely diverse country, from the people that live here, the languages that are spoken, which are not limited to French and English, which are the languages of the first Europeans that arrived here. But there have also been, not only in addition to other European people that have come, Italians, Greeks, etc. Today you have certain parts of this country, especially in the West Coast, where you have close to 60% of some of the areas near Vancouver in Western Canada that speak an Oriental language. There's been huge waves of migration from different parts of the world at different periods, and so that has led to a cultural diversity that's one of the great trademarks of this country, but also linguistically a challenge. In a city like Toronto, which is, according to all the statistics, the most multicultural or diverse city in the world in terms of the number of ethnicities represented, The latest statistics indicated that over 50% of the people that live in Toronto today were not born in Canada, which is absolutely a staggering statistic. The issue of language, of course, in the public domain, and the major issue has always been around English, French. Already we have the challenges of producing this paper in the context of a country as vast as Canada, in 8 printing zones, printing plants across the country, with strong bureaus in every province, etc. If we were to take that work and then have to do it in French as well, because printing a daily newspaper and producing a daily newspaper involves more than just taking content and translating it into another language. We have a very strong readership in Quebec, both Anglophone and Francophone. And so clearly we're doing the right thing with an English product. There are challenges. One of the big issues in Quebec, for example, is advertising. Because there have been, over the years, several laws that have been passed barring the use of the English language in advertising in Quebec. And the only exception to that is a cultural product that produces only in English. If we had a French edition, we would have to do advertising in French in Quebec. But because we're only an English language newspaper, we are allowed to advertise from billboards to direct marketing to other magazines in Quebec. We're allowed to advertise in English. And that's always, that is a major bone of contention in Quebec itself. Shop owners who can't advertise in English all signs have to be in French. The only newspaper in this country that distributed same day, coast to coast.
Coast to coast means nationwide, from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
With strong bureaus in every province.
In English, bureau is an office for a newspaper or an information service.
And that's always, that is a major bone of contention in Quebec itself.
Bone of contention is an idiom, some subject where there is disagreement. North America's early development was strongly influenced by Europeans looking for business opportunities. 2 members of Canada's oldest company give some insight into how diverse goals have been followed over hundreds of years.
Hi, I'm Brenda Hobbs, and I'm Manager of Records and Historical Information at the Hudson's Bay Company. And it's a fairly new position with the company. It's been about a year, and it's part of a fulfillment of an agreement that the Hudson's Bay Company has with the federal government and the government of the province of Manitoba, because we donated all of our corporate records in 1994 to the province, and in exchange we received a $68 million tax credit. And part of the agreement was that they would hire someone who would forever continue to look for historical information within the company and be sure that we continue to tell the story of one of the oldest companies in Canada.
I'm Dave Crisp, Senior Vice President of Human Resources and Public Affairs, and my connection with Brenda is through the public affairs, keeping the public informed of the history of the company, but also connecting it to modern day. The history is fascinating, and it's been a very important part of the Hudson's Bay Company for many, many years now. As the oldest corporation in North America, we've now also become the biggest retail company in Canada. So we have stores stretching from coast to coast, numbering now almost 600 in total. And we do about $7 billion worth of business. So our customer today is very much more diverse than ever before. We have to satisfy markets in every part of the country, and the markets vary considerably. So the history is something which knits us together. It's a memory that we can take forward into the future to tell people how we came to be and tie it to where we would like to go next. So Brenda is very important to us, particularly if we look at, for instance, our Aboriginal customers who also go coast to coast and reach back into the history. Many of them did business with Hudson's Bay 330 years ago. And we've maintained that connection with them ever since then. So Brenda will tell you a little bit about the history and how it connects to today.
I like to think of the company as having always been in the fashion business, because in around the early 1600s, the whole finding of North America was an accident. They were looking, of course, for another route to the east. They were looking for silks, spices, and Asian items, and instead, of course, Henry Hudson, who has no relationship to our company at all, other than that the bay is named after him, the bay that we had the territories from. When they came, they wound up finding these fabulous, fabulous furs, beaver, marten, fox, and that was something that was also incredibly valuable for early 1600 fashion. At that time, they gave the authority for all of the land that flowed, any river that flowed into the Hudson's Bay and the James Bay became part of the ownership of the Hudson's Bay Company, and they had rights to farm it, trap it, anything like that. So that was the start of the company. From there, Radisson came through on the Nonsuch. It's a ship also very important in our history. And they continued trapping, and it was really, they would be in settlements all along the bays, and then the Aboriginal community would come in to trade. That would be where they would start getting some of their items. One of the really major items that the Aboriginal community was interested in were Hudson's Bay blankets. That was probably the primary item they traded for because it provided them with warmth. It was something that they could sew, they could cut into their clothing, they could use as tents. So they worked very hard to collect furs, and then what happened was it was very difficult to know how many furs it took for each blanket. So what they started doing was putting little black stripes on a blanket, showing how many furs it would take to purchase that blanket. And so they have like a 3.5 point, a 6 point, an 8 point blanket. So what's happened is that blanket was developed the first time in 1685. The exact same process, the same blanket is still sold in our stores today. We still sell coats made out of the blankets today. And in honor of the new millennium and our 5th century that we've been operating in, we're now bringing in 2 new blankets that are taken directly from women's fashion colors. So we're back to the fashion again. They were searching for fashion using beaver pelts that were for hats and fashion of the 1600s, and we're now using fashion for blankets and household items of the 1990s and 2000.
And the history of Hudson's Bay is really built around the history of Canada. It's around the Hudson's Bay forts that the cities in Canada developed. And eventually, at the beginning of this century, they put a railroad across Canada connecting the major cities and forts that from the land that was given by Hudson's Bay to Canada. And people who built around those cities were really buying land from Hudson's Bay or getting grants from the Canadian government. So we are very proud to be still able to serve everywhere in Canada all of those people who really came here as a result of the efforts of our company to build up the country. So the history is something which knits us together.
Knitting is the way to make a sweater. It also means to connect.
When they came, they wound up finding these fabulous, fabulous furs.
Wound up comes from wind to end or finish. Now we turn to a completely different company, Listen to Coral employees explain what they do to support the work of a company which supplies diverse users all over the world.
My name's Jim Orban. You're at Corel Corporation in beautiful Ottawa, Canada. I'm the Executive VP of Sales and Marketing here at Corel. We were founded in 1986, so we're now 13 years old, and we have 1,300 employees worldwide, with about 800 employees here in this building in Ottawa. We have a very diverse group of employees here. Their backgrounds range from technical engineering science backgrounds to business and marketing backgrounds to the arts, and that makes a very fast-paced and exciting and dynamic environment here at Corel. One of our biggest challenges here is to try and get ahead of the consumer and the market and try and figure out what it is that the consumer needs out of their software and out of their computer 2 or 3 years from now, which is a big challenge because in an industry like this, it's very difficult to predict. But that's what makes this such an exciting and dynamic place to work. On the sales side, our team is focused on selling those products to the customer or consumer through a variety of channels, the retail store, the corporate customer, through our OEM or original equipment manufacturers, where the Corel software arrives loaded onto the hardware. So we have a very diversified sales and marketing team, and it's my job to manage that team day to day and deliver the business results that are expected of the company.
My day-to-day work it can be fairly varied, though I do spend quite a bit of time working on the computer. Specifically, I get into a lot of email and news groups, so typically to follow how my day kicks off. And my first order of business is typically to check in with email and find out if anything's been sent to me either from other people in the company or from people that I work with outside the company. I see here I've got a message from one of our media relations people. She's sending me a link on something that was specifically related to one of the products we're launching. So I go in and take a look at that. In this case, she sent me a link to a news article specifically talking about Linux and some inroads that it's making into the enterprise part of the market now, as opposed to just the more developer community. I page through that. I see I've got some minutes from a meeting I attended previously. I don't need to worry about that too much right now. That's just a recap of a meeting I've already attended, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. At that point then, I'll probably switch over and go to my personal information manager that I use and to take a look at some of the tasks that I've got that are outstanding right now that are left over from previous days. Typically, my email list will have brought in some new topics, some action items that I'm going to need to take place today. So I'll add those into the list as well. In addition, I'd probably check into also in my personal information manager the scheduling aspects of the software to know if I've got any meetings that are planned for today. If I have any meetings, then I'm probably going to take a few moments to try and plan exactly what I'm going to do if I have any preparation specifically required for those meetings. I rely on email a lot as a mode of communication. Not only does it give you a paper trail, but for a lot of communication that doesn't require real-time dialogue, it's a very effective medium. However, when you really want to hash out some new ideas or things that require a lot of dialogue, the telephone is still the main tool that I use. So typically to follow how my day kicks off.
Kicks off comes from sports. It means to start something.
I page through that. I see I've got some minutes from a meeting I attended previously.
Minutes are the official report written after a meeting.
Not only does it give you a paper trail.
Paper trail are the documents that are used to record what has happened in an interaction.
However, when you really want to hash out some new ideas.
Hash out is another way to say work out or figure out. Many people believe that Americans and Canadians are basically one and the same. But is that what they believe? Discover some of the diverse opinions from visitors to Niagara Falls.
Hi, I'm Myrna Geary. I'm from Penticton, British Columbia, in the Okanagan Valley. I think it's God's country. We're only 40 miles from the US border, so we spend a lot of time going back and forth and shopping. The shopping we like to do is because it's very different than what we can buy at home in Canada. And the American people, for the most part, are very, very friendly.
I'm Mel, and this is Carol Beatty, and we're from Lindsay, Ontario, Canada. And what do we think about America? We spend a lot of time in the United States.
Vacation there?
Yes.
Yeah.
We kind of like we probably, because it's topical now, we like our gun laws a little better. We feel safer, I guess, at home in Canada than we maybe do in the States, somehow, even though we do spend a fair amount of time down there.
But I think the States has a better living, I think, right? Their dollar goes a lot better
Cost of
than
living?
ours.
I don't know. We live pretty well,
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I think we have just as many opportunities in Canada to live well as they would in the U.S. Yeah, I can't. That I don't find a big difference. And I must admit, when we just go across the border, we don't think much about it until we're there. It's not until we see all the news about some of the things that are happening down there, I suppose. And we seem to have maybe less problems here. Yeah.
What do I think about the Canadians and Canada? It's a nice, clean country and pretty friendly people, and I dig their environmentalism.
My name is Matthew. I'm from Toronto, and from my experience of being to the United States, particularly the Eastern Seaboard, I find the economic and racial discriminations much larger than they are in Canada.
Hello, my name is Barbara Campbell, and I'm from Kitimat, British Columbia. I live just south of the Alaska border. Kitimat in the Haisla native language means people of the snow. So we get an awful lot of snow in the winter, as we did this year. I have a lot of friends that live in the United States. I'm also in travel. We get to go to the United States very frequently. It's a wonderful country, and they're great neighbors.